Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to talk a bit about myself and show you a project idea that you could expand or just use it as it is. I am a final year student and I'm a huge cybersecurity enthusiast. And today I'm planning on showing you a modified snippet of my final year project, which is an automated penetration testing tool. And in this tutorial, I'll be a bit different from a usual traditional technical or coding tutorial. You know, the usual write the code live, explain a bit more about the code, how to write the code, then actually going in depth uh, into the actual purpose of the code and what it does. So if you're here just for the code, that is perfectly fine. I'll scroll through the code in a few seconds and you can just have a look and modify it as you want if you think it's useful. Or if you want to see things a bit more in depth, then stick around until the end of the tutorial, and I will actually show you a demo and explain every single part of the actual code. I will be using Python. As an IDE, I'm using Visual Studio, just a normal Visual Studio. I will show you where to import all the stuff if you don't know how to do it from Visual Studio, but this should work perfectly fine with any Python IDE or just directly if you want to use Python. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So first, I'm just gonna give a scroll on the whole project. I'm gonna mainly use Tkinter as my GUI, and I'll be using threading and map, and that's pretty much it. It's quite straightforward. If obviously I would recommend to add other modules if you want, like vuln search or anything that is goes a bit more in depth. This is just nmap. So the purpose of the code is actually to make pen testing a bit more visible and easy to use. So with this code you can actually structure what you want from the scan. In my case, I just want the open ports, the state of the port, the name, the product, and the CPE in case I want to do a search. In my actual final year project, I pass this CPE into a vuln search, and based on the CPE, I try to find the known vulnerabilities. So let's get into it. So first is the import section. Tkinter as TK, you can name it as whatever you want. TKK as well, I'm gonna explain why that is the case. Threading and nmap. So we start from here. We just create an instance of Tkinter and call it root window. Then add a title, root window.title, and this is actually at the top of the window. It's not a title in the actual window. You're gonna see what I mean in a sec. Then I create a canvas 800 by 800, background black, and on that canvas I have two frames. I basically split the canvas into the top frame and the bottom frame. I just chose that because I thought it would be a bit better to compartmentalize everything. But if you feel like just doing it directly on the canvas, that's perfectly fine, or just having one frame. Then I just split the two screens in two methods. This is the main page, which you're gonna see directly when you run this window. And at the end you have a main loop, which is just a loop that goes continuously until you break it, usually by closing the actual window or closing the Python code. Next we have threading. Threading is very important because with Tkinter, because Nmap takes so long to actually scan for everything that I chose to scan, that it freezes the window and it looks like it's crashing when it's actually just not crashing. So I'm just using a second thread. I'm creating a second thread where we're gonna do the Nmap scan while the first thread is still going. So in the main map, I'm creating a label with the name, input your IP here, an entry bar, just so you could add the IP, and a button which on click just use the command function and goes into the thread method and gets the entry.get just gets the entry that you've inputted here, right? And in here in the threads with the entry, which is the IP, we create a new thread, and the IP submit is this method which takes the entry, which is the IP, and this needs to be added as args. It's not the usual method name parentheses and you just add whatever it is inside. In this case we need to add it as args, right? And we start it, and then we go into this IP submit method, create an instance of the Nmap port scanner. This is a normal scan. Usually this Nmap on Python returns everything as a JSON object. So to actually have a bit more detail into what you want to see, you can use an M and brackets, and you add your IP. Prot is, I'm usually just using, right now I'm just using TCP just as a string, but you could actually just check if it has UDP as well or it has just UDP, and input that and try with TCP and UDP. You can go into the Nmap, Python Nmap documentation, and you're gonna see details about it, right? So in this case I'm just looking for open ports and saving them in open ports, the open ports variable here. Then I'm just trying to iterate through it, and then I just try to make it a bit more visible. So I want to know for each port, know the state, the name, the product, and the CPE. Actually, let's just run this because it might take a second or two to run, and then we can go in more detail. By the way, I'm using hack the box. So IP submit, at my usual project I would have a loading bar and a progress bar which actually shows where it is at the moment, but in this case I just didn't include it. It's a simple progress bar. If you want to add it, you can have a look, or you can comment down below and I can show you. Right, open ports info just basically takes everything and puts it into one string, because we need to parse it to an output box, which I'm gonna show you right now how to do. Right, after all this is done, we go into this display page and pass the open ports info. The display page is a sort of second page, or at least it's the same page but the second part of the page. And I want an output box, and in this box I want to set the actual text of the box to be the scan results, which we passed over here, which are the open ports involved, right? And if you want to go, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about Tkinter and how to place it, how to organize it on the actual window, but it's quite simple. Relative x, relative y, it's just an x-y axis, and you place it based on that, depending on what frame you have or how big your canvas is, right? And now we go into the automate. So as you saw, the title that we set is here, automated pen testing tool. So it's the title of the window. After you inputted something here, another window appeared with actual ports, the state, the name, the product, and the CPU. It's very nice and visible, very simple, and easy to read. You could add very complex stuff and have it in one place, or even have a .txt file that you could save into all these details. But I think if you want to use it for just an initial scan, this would be the best. Just have an output window, maybe a bit bigger, with a lot of the selected information. And this is what the usual result looks like, just the normal scan. So that's why it's quite important, if you want to do this, to actually select what you want from all this and get the things that are very important for you in that case. That was all I wanted to show you. This has a lot of potential. There's loads of things that this can be used to. If you've just started into cybersecurity, this is a really good way to start. You can just use this as a frame to learn more, and you can expand this into something more complex. Thank you for watching. If you have any other suggestions for anything that you want to know, or you want to know any other details about this current project, then just comment down below, and thank you for watching all this video.